Hello, bonjour, French students. Bienvenue, welcome to French this year. I'm just going to be going over your course overview with you, and then you need to answer a few questions at the end, and then you are done with this assignment. But there are plenty of things that you'll need to keep in mind for this school year. So, like I said before, in order to get credit for this particular assignment, you'll need to watch this entire video and correctly answer the questions at the end. So as I said, my name is Mrs. Hool. You can remember that it rhymes with pool. And I also teach 6th and 7th grade English and Social Studies at Icon. And I apologize for the photo booth stopping intermittently here and there. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, so my contact information is there. What you should do is, after you've read or gone through this video, is to print out my contact information and keep it handy. So I am available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I do have a live open office for any help or questions on Mondays and Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. and you can enter there. You can enter from the school calendar at the Icon school website. But also I'm not just available on those days. Like I said, I'm available all day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So you can call me. We can arrange to go into my open office if you have questions or if you need me to show you how to do something. I'd be happy to. My email address is right there, and both of my phone numbers. I do have two phone numbers because sometimes I work from my office and my cell phone does work there. Sometimes I work from home and that's the second phone number. However, my cell phone does not work from my home. I don't have cell service up in the mountains where I live, and so you would need to call my home phone number. So if you ever need to leave a message, try both phone numbers before you leave a message, because I could be at the other phone number, and so if I'm at home, I might not even get the cell phone message until I go back into cell service. So that's why you should try both. Anyway, so what is it about? In French 1, both semesters, students will begin to develop competence in 4 basic skill areas: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So while you develop communicative competence in French, you'll gain and expand your knowledge of Francophone countries and cultures. And that means they don't only speak French in France. So by the end of French 1, you will be able to communicate minimally using short sentences. You'll learn words and phrases and simple questions and commands when speaking and writing. You will understand some ideas and familiar details and present it in clear, uncomplicated speech when you're listening. And then you'll understand short written texts enhanced by visual cues when reading. So, although you cannot expect to become fluent in French after 1 or 2 years of taking it, you will begin to learn basic vocabulary and phrases if you decide to travel. So think of it as like learning language as a baby. We don't expect 2-year-olds to completely be able to understand and express themselves and understand what adults are saying. So be easy on yourself is what I'm saying. You shouldn't know everything everyone is saying in French after just 1 or 2 years, but you should begin to understand a little bit. And since French is the next most used language internationally after English, you will be able to understand much of what is going on in the world. For example, you might have noticed during the recent Olympics that they do also announcements in French as well as in English and in the language of the country that they're in. So here are some additional resources that you may need for this course. Of course, you need internet access. An encyclopedia, you can use online access or a hard copy. Online access is very easy to just Google an encyclopedia. You may need paper like a notebook and pencil or pen to take notes to help you remember. And a printer is also optional in order to print notes out. Okay, so here's how the course is going to be run. Unit overviews. At the beginning of each unit, you'll find an overview, like what you will learn in that unit. Also included are study guides for each quiz and test in the unit. And some units have important links for readings or resources you'll need. You will need to answer 2 questions to get credit for completing each unit overview. Okay? So then, live class assignments. To help you with the more difficult assignments and projects, I have scheduled a live class assignment throughout the units, usually 1 per unit. As the time gets closer for each assignment, I will insert a link in that assignment for you to either attend the live class or to watch a recording of it and call me for credit. So you will be required to complete one of these options for credit for the assignment, which means you'll have to either attend the live class or watch the video and call me to tell me what you saw in the video. Okay, so you won't be able to do these projects in advance. So my grading policy and the grading weights. First of all, if you're concerned about any assignments, your grade, or your progress, contact me as soon as possible. So I do expect you to read and study the lessons, complete all the lessons, projects, quizzes, and tests in the order that they're due. So that means even though projects are available to you throughout the units, don't complete them before everything else, because if you do, you're not going to know what you're doing. The projects are just available to you in advance so that you can look at them and make sure that during the assignments you're learning what you need to learn in order to complete those, and so that you know that they're coming up. And then in red, a note regarding blank questions or assignments. It is the school-wide policy of ICON to reassign blank essay and short answer questions within lessons, quizzes, and tests. So students submitting blank work will have these questions reassigned, and repeated blank work will result in assignments being locked and may result in parent-teacher conferences to resolve the issue. So in other words, don't leave questions blank and don't just put garbage for them, because they will be reassigned. Okay? If you need help completing them, that's what I'm here for. I will help you. A little bit about plagiarism and online translators. Okay, as you know, I'm sure, plagiarism is essentially copying someone else's work and making it your own. You will need to write any research material in your own words. I'm sure you've heard that before. And this doesn't just mean changing the words in a sentence or a paragraph around. You must read and interpret the material into your own words and language. You must include citations anytime you research or look up information. Using a quote in your answer is not plagiarism if you use quotation marks, you keep it just to 1 or 2 lines of text, and if you tell where the quote came from. So here's the big thing. If an assignment is plagiarized, or part of it even, it will be a 0. So it will be counted into your grade, except for the first offense, which I give you a warning, contact your parents, and you have to redo. Okay? So, and if it keeps happening, I'll have to contact the ICON administration, but hopefully you'll just put things in your own words, you'll cite your sources, and everything will go smoothly. Using an online translator like Google Translate or any of those is treated the same as plagiarism. Looking up a word or two is fine, just like using a dictionary, but translating entire phrases, sentences, and passages is not okay. Also, I'll know if you used an online translator because sometimes online translators aren't entirely accurate. Okay? You might think they should be, but they're not. And I'll also know that you don't have that level of French. Okay. Let's talk about extra credit. It is available if you have no zeros, your work is on pace, and you'd like to improve your grade. And just contact me if you'd like to consider extra credit. So, Every regular lesson is worth 25% of your unit grade. You have just 2 attempts this year to reach a score of at least 75%. In other words, if you go through a lesson and you get less than 70%, the system is automatically going to kick that assignment back to you, and you get one more chance to get 75% or greater. Okay? If you don't get 75% or greater, that on your second attempt, then you just have to take whatever grade you have. Okay? So this is a little different. Last year, you had 3 attempts. This year, you just have 2 attempts. So I advise reading through the material, then answering questions instead of just trying to click through. So projects are worth 25% of your unit grade. Now, since projects, there's usually just one per unit, even though it's also worth 25%, since there's only one per unit, that's 25% of your unit grade. A blank project will be reassigned, just like a blank essay. We already talked about that. Quizzes are 25% of your unit grade. You have only one opportunity to complete quizzes and tests, so make sure you're prepared before you open them. Okay, I'm not going to be unlocking quizzes and tests a lot. Okay, so be prepared, have your study guide with you to answer your questions, and just open them once. Tests, same thing, 25% of your unit grade, you have only one opportunity to complete them. And unit tests are just one per unit, so that is 25% of your unit grade. Okay, here's my policy on reassigning quizzes or tests. And I'll tell you this if you ask to have them reassigned or unlocked or whatever. Alternate versions of quizzes and tests will be reassigned if you wish to redo them for a better grade. This will be done at my discretion and most likely at the end of the unit. So, in other words, you're not just going to be taking the same quiz or test over again. You'll be taking an alternate version. And there aren't study guides for those. So, I highly recommend that you complete the study guide, wait for corrections to it, get my feedback, and then take your quiz or test using your study guide. So, speaking of study guides, in all of my courses, study guides will be actual lessons to be turned in before working on each quiz or test. Okay? Teachers are going to differ with study guides this year. Some will require them, some won't. I am requiring them. So, an incomplete study guide will be treated as a blank essay. So, in other words, not allowed, so you need to complete it. Assignment reference numbers are given for quiz study guides. So, in other words, on a certain question, it might say A5, so that would mean go back to assignment 5 and you'll find how to answer that question. Test study guides do not have assignment references. Then it's your responsibility to find the information in the assignments. And I won't be able to give you the answers. A study guide does count toward your grade. So if you're having a hard time finding certain answers, call me or attend a live office session for help. Okay, this does not apply to the whole study guide, however. So I'm not going to sit there and go through and find each answer for you with every study guide or for the whole study guide. You need to do most of it on your own, and if you have trouble with 1 or 2 questions, I'd be happy to help. So in correcting study guides, I will let you know which answers are incorrect on each study guide. You are expected to correct them and resubmit, since they are mostly actual questions from the quiz or test. So, in other words, your study guide isn't just for studying, it will help you get the exact answers on the quiz or test most of the time. Okay? So there are some things you're going to have to study on your own, but when you complete the study guides correctly, you'll be able to take those, use those on the quiz or test, and do well. Okay? So after you correct, then you may go on to the quiz or test. Be sure to work on other courses while you're waiting for a study guide to be graded. Okay? Don't just turn it in and go on. Otherwise, that's just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You know, use the corrected study guide on the quiz or test. Waiting for corrections will ensure you do your best on each quiz or test, and you have 3 chances to complete a study guide correctly. Sorry about that. After that, you'll need to take whatever grade you receive on it. And I'm not going to be giving answers this year. You will need to go back and find the answers on your own. I will just tell you which ones are incorrect. So, and after your 3 chances, you'll need to take whatever grade you receive and then use the correct answers as you take each quiz or test. Okay? Do contact me if you have any questions about this, because I hope that the study guides run more smoothly this year. So, how to study a language. When learning a new language, we all have the tendency to want to translate things word for word. You can do that when learning new vocabulary words, but sentences and phrases are entirely different. When reading and listening and trying to understand conversations in French, I want you to focus on the overall sense of what's being said. Okay, you don't have to understand every single little word in order to understand the context of the sentence or conversation. When phrases are translated word for word, they tend to sound strange and may not even make very much sense. When you get into studying French, you'll understand more. So as a side note, this is also how I'll know if you used an online translator to write what you want to say in French. It looks and sounds totally absurd when you know how to read French. I'll also know that you do not yet have that level of vocabulary. The best way to complete an assignment in French is to use what you already know. Copy, yes, copy the examples given in assignments, but put the information you need to provide. For most projects in French, they will give you an example, so use their examples, but just put your information in. Another good tip is to read the rubric for a written assignment if they include one. A grading rubric will let you know exactly what is required and will allow you to be successful the first time. Listen to and practice the French vocabulary aloud. The vocabulary is given at the end of every unit, and there'll be a little button for you to listen, and then just go ahead and repeat, and it really helps. It gives your brain another way to remember the material you've learned. So, bonne chance, good luck with learning French, and please do contact me if you need anything. Au revoir, goodbye.